introductions. So if the alumni around the room, if we could just kind of just roll around and you can just say a quick hey to us.
But I'm Anthony. I actually hate introductions, especially when it's more than 5 people in a room. I am Charlie. I am the communications director at Bay Ridge Prep in Brooklyn, New York.
Hi, I'm Brock. I am the president of Pulaski Academy in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I'm a Charlie.
Should I go? I'm not an alumni. Not yet. Future Lima. I'm Maggie. I'm his daughter. I'm going to be going to Vanderbilt, and so I guess I'm also from Little Rock.
All the way back over to you, Trey.
Oh, okay. I'm Trey. I live here in National Orchid Innsworth with Maurice Will. I teach Latin school production program faculty. What is it? I'm Neko.
I'm Neko as well. I'm Elizabeth London. I head a school of Rockland School in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
I'm Jennifer Morgan, head of school at Trinity School in Austin. I'm an alumni in Austin area. I'm Jess. I am actually from Nashville. I just moved to Jackson, Mississippi, and I'm working for a virtual reality school that's based in Florida. I'm a Delta.
Just got us. All right, folks. We're going to have alumni trickling in all throughout the day. Oh, we got another one sneaking in the back.
Hello.
Okay, Mo, can you just give a quick little shout out to the crew?
Sure. I'm Kevin Lewis. I am the interim head of school at St. Andrew Physical School in Jackson, in Ridgeland, Mississippi. We're an infant through 12th grade program, and also 40 students on 2 campuses.
There we go.
Glad to be back.
Yeah. I'm so glad to have this guy on campus with us. Keep all in that. Tree, living color, we have Tim, Mr. Meaningful Work.
Hey,
Yes.
I'm going to require it.
Right. So I have been so hyped about coming out. You guys have no idea. I've been super excited to come out and chat with you guys. I initially met Rutledge. So I had talked with Rutledge, and I mean, that guy just,
He's a Charlie.
he's a Charlie. And that dude made me laugh until my abs were worked out. And so I have a show called the Late Afternoon Show. So we had Rutledge on, we were talking. And then he told me about his partner, this guy named Patrick. And it's like, all right, gotta meet him. If he's anything like you, I gotta meet him. And so met Patrick and instantly fell in love with this guy. Just his passion, he's super chill, just super engaging, just incredibly warm, like through the screen, right? I think we've had to figure out how to connect with folks virtually in the last year, but I mean, it was just effortless. And so we actually had him on the show as well. And recently we had a threefer. We had Patrick, we had Dom, we had Suzanne. She'll be here a little later. And it was just tons and tons of fun. The first time on my podcast that somebody actually sang, we sang happy birthday to Mr. Schumann, so that was a hit. But I'm just super excited to be here because my whole thing since last year is trying to figure out what is meaningful work. It's a term that is thrown out a lot. It's kind of this cliche, very nice buzzword. You put it on stuff and to get attention. But I'm like, yo, what is it in real life? Like, how do you actually use it? And the reason that I wanted to do that is because I have a problem. And my problem is I cannot focus. I find it very hard to focus and stay on one thing. I can have a stable job and I'll be having like 17 side hustles at the same time. And I was hemorrhaging time with my family. Like it was not a good thing. And so last year, the catalyst for it was like, I got a new job. I work at Adventist Health. That is my day job. I have like so many meetings I've kicked out of the way to be to be here for this. And so I moved from LA, Southern California, up to Sacramento, where the headquarters is. And so it was a new job, new city. I didn't have my network, and I know the temptation, the itch is going to come to try and jump into something else. And I was like, you know what? This is a new year, 2020. Let me figure this thing out. Let my desire to find focus be the hustle. Like, let my desire to figure out, like, why am I always pulled in so many different directions? Why can't I find something that's stable for myself, that has meaning for me? Let me figure out what that meaningful work is for myself. And I decided to say, you know what? That's going to be the brand. I'm just going to I'm going to document my journey, my learnings, and all that stuff. And I'm going to talk to smart people to figure it out. And that's how Mr. Meaningful Work was born. So what I do is every Monday, I just document. I have Meaningful Mondays, which is just my reflection from the previous week. What did I learn about meaningful work that previous week? And I share it on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and things like that. And then on Tuesdays, I do a show where I ask different people. It used to be on Instagram, where I would call it the rough chat. What are you famous for? And I would talk to different folks, ask them what they're famous for. That's like I don't like asking people, like, so what do you do? Like, I don't like that intro. So I ask them, what are you famous for? Kind of puts them on the back of the heels and try to figure out, what that thing is. And then ask them about their experience on meaningful work. So that was on Instagram Live. We had conversations and interviews. And then LinkedIn granted me LinkedIn Live. So then I was able to take my show on there, and I called it the Late Afternoon Show, kind of like this. I wanted to do like a Jimmy Fallon late night, type of thing where like folks are dancing in and like we have jokes and all that stuff. Not your normal podcast type of thing. And so that was my Tuesday of what are other people talking about by way of meaningful work. And so through all of that, I've talked to a lot of different people, different leaders, different industries, different organizations, my own personal reflection, a lot of research that I've done on the subject. I'm actually in the process of writing a book about all the things that I've learned. And so what this is just a culmination of what we have found are the essentials of meaningful work and how it impacts you and the work that you're doing, the growth that you want to see in your particular industry. The first time I presented this, I did this for nurses at Adventist Health. We had a conference and I was able to talk about meaningful work as a nurse. Since that time, been talking to, so my dad's a principal at a private school down in Southern California. I'm on a school board for a private school up in Sacramento. So I've been seeing the inner workings of school administration and all the barriers and all the opportunities and all those things. Like, yo, this is very relevant for educators and administrators as well. So that's what I want to share with you guys today. I love this one. One of the folks that I connect with on LinkedIn, her name is Dr. Mohammed. She's a senior learning instructor, learning something leader at Amazon. But she has a background in education, and she says that she, as a teacher, as an educator, she has the front row seat to miracles. Like, as teachers and educators, you guys are seeing miracles, transformation happening, and you guys get to see that every day. You might have the front row seat, but things might jostle you. Sometimes you might feel like you're falling up out of that seat. All right, so meaningful work is like that seatbelt. Keeps you snuggled in, keeps you close, keeps you safe while you're watching this awesome stuff happening. So that is what we're going to be talking about today, and it's going to be interactive. We're going to have some sections for you guys to talk and to share, because I also want to learn from you guys. This is all learning from me as well. So might be a little selfish because I'm going to be asking for information from you, if that's okay. So we are going to move right along. I love storytelling. I'm sure you guys do too, as you guys use it often in your classrooms. But I heard a story the other day about the Tale of the Three Knights. So medieval scenario. You have this king who calls his three bravest knights to the court and says, "My knights, I have a mission for you. And the mission is to figure out who is the most valiant, who is the most brave, who is the most valiant of my knights. And you have 3 years to figure this out." And he gave all the knights a sack. He said, "Go out, fill up this sack, and come back and prove your braveness, your valiance. So if you get on their horses and they gallop away off into the distance. And so 3 years later, nobody's heard from them. And all of a sudden, there's this huge parade, huge onslaught of folks that are coming through. And is that working?
It's the Zoom. You're good.
No. Oh, they can't see it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Take it knows what to do though.
I think. We'll see. Last time. Takes a village team.
No worries. I appreciate it. I want them to be able to get the experience. So while we figure that out, I heard some South word.
Hey, Patrick.
Oh.
Sorry, it's easier to just talk since I'm driving. I can see the slide that says A Tale of Three Nights if that's what I'm supposed to be seeing.
Awesome. Cool.
You just make it.
Sweet. Thank you. Thank you. Good. Sweet.
Give it up for Hager! So these knights rode off, and 3 years later, they come back. And they come back into the king's court, they gallop in, everybody's like, oh my God, the knights are back. And they come into the king's court, and the first knight comes in, and he drops his sack, boom. And he drops another sack, boom. And he drops about 6 sacks in front of the king. And everybody's amazed, like, what? What did you do these last 3 years? And he said, well, I went out and I went to the first village, and I saw that there was an opportunity. And I saw that these folks were not protected. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of money from them. So he taxed them just a little bit. And he went on to the next city, he taxed them a little bit to offer protection, to offer guidance, to train them, to show them how they can be brave and keep away from their enemies. And so over these 3 years, these are the taxes, these are the wealth, and these are the gold and the jewels that I've gotten from this expedition. And his 6 bags were full of jewels, full of gold, full of coins. And everybody was really impressed. To give him a nice little golf clap. And then the next one comes in. And he drops his sack. And in his sack, there are blueprints and agreements and all these different things. And he said he went out to the first village and he saw there was an opportunity to build bridges and build dams and build rivers and actually get trade agreements with some of their neighboring countries. So he got the folks in the village to work and to build these dams and to build these bridges and to and make these rivers so that they can increase trade for the kingdom. And so the king was like, wow, very good, I appreciate that. And then the third knight came in, and he had no sack. Everybody was like, yo, dude, you gotta remember the assignment. He said, yes. When I went out in the first city, the first village I came up to, they didn't have, they were hungry. They didn't have enough food. So I went out, I took my sack, I gathered some food, I gathered some seeds, I went and hunted and got some meat for them. I came back, I emptied the sack for them and gave it to them. And so I went out to continue my conquest. I went to the next city and I saw that their buildings were dilapidated, they were falling over. So I went out and I chopped some wood and I got some resources and I got some rocks and stones. I filled up my sack and I came back to the village and I dropped it off of them and made sure that they built their houses. And so I went out to continue my journey, and I came to the next city. In this city, the people were sick. They didn't have any medicine. So I went out and I gathered some herbs and I got some water and I got these different things and I dropped a sack for them and offered them some medical service. And this has happened for the last 3 years, village to village, city to city. I fill up my sack and I drop it off, and I fill up my sack and I drop it off, and I have an empty sack. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to complete to show you how brave and how valiant and how resourceful I am. And the king gets up off his throne and he comes down and he said, I want everybody to gather on and listen up. You, knight number 1, very, very smart, very, very resourceful. You're able to get all this money from these different villages, but you took advantage of them. And you really, really bled them dry. This is a lot of money for the kingdom. Knight number 2, you're very resourceful. You got all these trade agreements, and you built these bridges, and you built these dams, and you built these rivers and things like that. But you work these people to their wits' end. The folks are exhausted. I've been getting reports from these villages that they're tired. Knight number 3, you showed that you cared. And the real reason I put this challenge out is for folks to see who's going to take over for me as king. And you, knight number 3, you showed care. You showed compassion. You do not take advantage. You're not working too hard. But you loved and you served them. So now you're going to be king in my stead. And the point of the story, and the reason that it resonated to me, was that when I think about educators, when I think about teachers, I was a substitute teacher for less than a year. I'm like, wow, this, I don't know if I can cuss here, poop is hard. Yeah. This stuff is hard. And you guys are knights. You guys are our knights in shining armors as educators, as teachers. You go out there and you battle every day. You pour yourselves out every day. And sometimes it might feel like your bag is empty, like you have nothing to show for it. But that's where we want to talk about the meaningfulness of the work, to understand that the work that you do, the impact that you have. One of the things that I love when talking to Patrick and Dom and Suzanne was like, it's not just about the work, it's about the impact, the community, right? How do we transform communities in the work that we're doing? And that's what we want to talk about today, is how to realize the meaningfulness in the work that you're doing. So that by the end of this thing, the three main things I want us to walk away with is that you'll be able to understand what is currently creating meaningfulness in the work that you're doing. Recognize what is blocking it. What is blocking the experience of meaningfulness in the work that you're doing? And finally, what are the things that you can do to create more meaningfulness in the work that you do? Those are the three main things that we want to get out of this. But I want to ask you guys real quick, the word meaningful work, how would you define that? What are some of the words, some of the applications, definitions that come to mind when you hear meaningful work? Impact. Very good. Anybody else?
Purposeful.
Purposeful work. Somebody else? Sustainable.
Bigger than the individual.
Bigger than the individual.
Self-defined.
Self-defined. Very good. I've been seeing that. I've been trying to gather all these definitions. That's what I've been doing for the last year and a half, is gathering definitions. And I see that, as you're saying, it's very personal. It's very personal. But there are some common themes, even in that nuance. Very good. Anybody else? Meaningful work. What are some things that come to mind?
Work that doesn't feel like work.
Work that doesn't feel like work. I love that. I love that.
Not in with these. I'd say soul.
Soul.
Your soul.
That's deep. That's under the heart, right? That's where your soul is? Right up under there. That inspires others. Man, I'm glad I'm recording this. I need this. Yeah.
It's not work done for yourself. I don't think that meaningful work defined by what it does for you.
In the context of others. Yeah. There's a level of selflessness that comes with work, doing meaningful work. Last one. Anybody else want to take the last bet? Yeah.
It's a larger purpose.
Larger purpose. I love that. I love that. And so, and I love asking that question because it validates for me that these are the common themes when talking about meaningful work. Over the last year and a half, talking to the different folks, my own personal research, these are the themes. A lot of purpose, a lot of bigger than yourself, a lot of impact. Talking about working for other folks, and so we're going to talk about the factors that go into that. This is how I define it: work that is largely driven. You guys see that? By intrinsic motivation, is internally fulfilling and externally impactful. So there's a book. There's a guy named Daniel Pink. Has anybody heard of Dan Pink? Yeah. Have you guys read the book Drive? You know about it? Yeah, so in Drive, he talks about different levels of motivation, right? When we were at the very beginning, beyond the dawns of time, at the very beginning, we were motivated by very biological things, right? We got to eat, we got to drink, and we got to make more of us, all right? So those are all the things that we had to do. as things got a little bit more nuanced, things got a little bit more complicated, we had another level of motivation, which was the carrot and the stick, right? Something to incentivize you, or something to poke you in the butt and keep you going. Something to avoid, something that you wanted to avoid. But as we developed and as we grew and as work got a little bit more nuanced and things got more complicated, there was a third level of motivation, which is intrinsic motivation. Things that internally drive you, things that are not externally. It's not just about money. It's not just about punishment or things like that. It has to come from the inside. And so there's some factors of intrinsic motivation that work towards meaningful work, but it also has to make something that makes you feel good. Like, I'm happy about the work that I'm doing. It's either my strength, it's something that gives me energy, but at the same time, it works well. There's a net positive result for other people. So all of those things combined are factors in defining meaningful work. And so the reason that this thing is important is because we have seen in the research that we've done, I say we, it's just me. I speak myself in the royal plural. Yeah. Is that experiencing meaningful work leads to increased resilience and better engagement. Increased resilience and better engagement. Resilience for yourself, how you're able to bounce back. We're going to spend a little bit more time on resilience, not as much time on engagement, because I feel like given the year that we've just had, last year, which is just one cog in the overall situation. These are things that you guys are dealing with all the time. When you're talking with, dealing with parents, you're dealing with boards, you're dealing with, all these districts or what have you, that there's a need for resilience. But experiencing meaningful work increases in resilience, increases engagement for your staff, for your school, for the folks that you work with, and the students that you're working with, the community that you're trying to engage. Having meaningfulness in your work helps increase those things. And so what that does is increases your community impact. And so real quick, this is just, has anybody seen this chart before from a resilience standpoint? So the effects of high resilience. Why do we focus on meaningful work? Because it increases resilience. So if you see here, does this have a little thingy thing? So you can see here, this is a threshold. So when something happens, a challenge, a disruption happens, folks with lower resilience, what you see here, your energy, your productivity, this is disruptive behavior. Your energy goes all over the place and you're outside the threshold of productivity. If I was to ask you, what are some non-productive behaviors that happen when you're feeling challenged, what would you say?
Complaining.
Whoa, did you guys practice that? Complaining, what else? What was that? Drinking. What else? Panic.
Self-pity.
Self-pity.
Blame.
Blame. I like that.
Pretending it didn't happen.
Oh, just avoid it.
Yeah.
What problem? Procrastinating. Putting it off. Anything else?
Binging on TV.
Binging. Just want to numb your mind.
Wearing down, just physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Unfocused.
Yeah. Unfocused. So these are unproductive behaviors that happen when you don't have the tools to bounce back, right? Resilience is your ability to bounce back, being able to deal with high levels of challenges and disruption while maintaining high levels of effectiveness and well-being. That is the resilience that we're talking about. And so folks with higher resilience, what you're going to see here is that they're able to, you're still going to have a little bit, nobody's perfect, right? Challenges are going to come. There's still going to be a little bit of that spillover, but it's going to be minimized because you have the tools, you have the focus, and the recovery time, you'll see here, the recovery time is faster when that challenge is resolved. So you're still spending energy, you're still going to have to stretch a little bit, but your productive behavior is going to be more, your non-productive behavior is going to be less, and you're going to be able to recover a lot more. And that is why we want to focus on meaningful work and understanding how we can find meaning in the work that we're doing from a resilience standpoint. And last thing, just for building context on why this stuff is important, is so we have a regulatory body for all of healthcare called the Joint Commission. And so the Joint Commission regulates all healthcare, all the positions within healthcare. And so this was their results on the leader empowering behaviors that help build resilience. I think it's from like a 2015 survey that showed what are the leader empowering behaviors that improve resilience. And then our engagement. I don't know if you guys do engagement surveys within your schools or communities or organizations, but Gallup is a very big engagement platform. Press Ganey is another engagement platform. And then they also did research on what are the factors that contribute to increased engagement. And engagement is just how you feel about the work that you're doing, or feel about your workplace and your team and your emotional attachment to that. So the common theme that you see here is for resilience and the empowering behaviors that leaders can do to increase resilience is enhancing the meaningfulness of work. In engagement, the factor that employees shared that shows higher engagement is that they feel like their work is meaningful. So you can see the research shows that experiencing meaningful work is a factor in building resilience and increasing engagement. So I want to ask you guys a question. If you can describe a time, look over the last semester, I don't know if you guys do year, quarters, semesters, or what have you, who can tell me a story of their most memorable day? If you can think of the most memorable day at school, at work in the last year, last quarter, the story time. I want to hear from you guys.
Last day of school.
Tell me about it. What was memorable about the last day of school for you?
Because we made it and we did it, and it wasn't easy.
Yeah. Just making it through. And did you guys have like a virtual? Do you guys do a little bit of a mix?
There was the virtual option, but we were in person.
Okay. Very good. The last day of school. Anybody agree with that? Last day of school was the most memorable.
I work with her.
Yeah. Very good. Anybody else? What was a memorable day that you can?
It had nothing to do with work, but a Spanish teacher on my team left, and so just before the end of school, in school, our team had like a little party for her where we got some food catered, decorations, the whole thing.
Very nice. Very nice. What kind of food?
It was Fuzzy's tacos. Yeah.
Taco. I was hoping the end result was going to be tacos.
Yeah.
You said Spanish teacher. I'm like, please let there be tacos. And so why was that memorable for you?
It was focused on people, and it was something very much out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Your team,
yes.
Your folks, something out of the ordinary. And remind me again, last day of school, why was that such a memorable day? I mean, you talked about we made it.
I think it was memorable as a leadership team when the last car left. Of us coming together and saying we worked hard.
Yeah. So what did the feet? Go ahead.
Sorry. I was the first time I got a phone call saying like we have a positive COVID case within, like it wasn't like someone outside of school had gotten it or like a second person. It was like one of our students had been in school feeling sick and just like having to deal with the factors that like who directly came in contact with him. Did he have his mask on? Was he like following our procedures? What should we do? Will parents be pissed if we call? This is right before Christmas.
Yeah.
And like, will parents get pissed that we shut down school early? And just like trying to think through all those factors. Like it was on a Saturday. I was just playing some Call of Duty and had my whole day wrecked. I was not happy.
And what was it about that? And so I want to use that and go into our next question here. Spanish teacher party, last day of school, COVID case. What factors were in your control versus factors that were outside of your control in those situations?
In my control, it was who should I call? Who should I alert? I guess what should be my recommendation to start ahead? I was the assistant head. What should we do? Because I was technically in charge of the COVID response, I guess. And so those were my actions. Things were out of my control. What our head actually did, how parents reacted, how the students would react, like if people would actually go get tested and make sure everyone else got. Yeah. So I guess that's it.
Very good. What was in your control versus out of your control on that memorable day?
All right, this one, because it's, I guess, a little bit different, not strictly work-related, I would say everything was in, our control as a team.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe something that was out of control. Thankfully nobody had a family emergency or had any work to do during the time we planned the party.
Yeah.
But maybe something could.
Yeah. Well, most of it you were able to handle within your. What about you, madam?
I think that's what was so great was that we got to let go of the things that we had to be in control of that were very intense and new to us.
Yeah. Yeah. You can just.
Really.
I don't know if you guys watch TikTok, but there's this new dance like poof, be gone. Y'all seen that? No?
Don't worry, I have.
You have. Okay. Yeah. Talking to you only. Yeah. But the reason for that is that as we talk about how to experience meaningfulness in our work, when you think about days that are burned in your memory, whether good or bad, and you think about things that you could do, like within your control or things that are out of control, when we talk about meaningful work, we just have to realize there are some things that are in our control, things that we can do, things that are outside of our control. It's just the environment, it's the infrastructure, it's the leadership, what have you. But we want to focus on the things that we can control, to focus on the things the decisions that we can make, the influence that we can have, or the things that we don't want to control, right? The things that we want to let go of to be able to experience meaningfulness in our work. So I'm going to introduce you to the 2D, 4P principle. So this is the beginnings, okay? So this is still a draft stage. This is the beginnings of the meaningful work matrix, 2D, 4P, and we'll dive into what that is. So the 2Ds are just approaches to meaningful work. You can approach meaningful work a number of different ways. That's what the 2Ds are. So you can approach meaningful work as a destination, something that is role or job specific. Like it's very finite. I want to experience meaningful work in my current role or in a future role. All right. And so the factors that we talk about are relating to a particular role or a particular project. Direction is a little bit more, is less specific. It's more on, I just want, as I'm moving through life, I want to be able to see meaningfulness in everything that I do, right? So as opposed to meaningful work specific, it can be just looked at meaningfulness in life. Some folks call this purpose. Some folks call this, having the right vision, for your life or perspective on your life. But just understand that what we're talking about today is the destination in your job, in your role, in a particular project that you're doing. How can you experience meaningfulness in that? So those are the 2Ds. And the first P in the 4P is permission. Authority, ownership, and autonomy. So these are some of the things that are part of that intrinsic motivation that I was talking about. Having that lends itself to experiencing meaningful work. So I want to introduce you to my squad. That's my boy, Joshua, and those are my twin girls, Joy and Jael. I used to have dreadlocks. And then I had 3 kids. And the locks were like, poof, be gone. But this is my squad. And the reason I put them up there is because how many of us have kids in here? You can please, that's maybe. Yeah. Right? Kids ask or should ask for permission for a lot of things. My daughter will ask me, can I wear this underwear or this underwear? Can I wear my ballerina shoes to the park? Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? And they're asking me for permission because at a certain level, they feel like they don't own the shoe or the underwear or whatever it is, and that I need to grant them access to that thing. Or can we go to the park? Can we go to this person's house? Can we go swimming? Because they feel like they don't have autonomy over their time and what they can do. They need to get that from me, and I have the ownership of that. My employees at Adventist Health, the leadership residents, so I lead, we have a leadership residency program where we take college students, fresh graduates and like master's folks that come into and learn about healthcare. They spend 2 years with us and they put them into entry-level leadership positions to build up our executive pipeline. So that's what I do as my day job. And so my employees will come and ask, hey, can I expense this? Or can I go to this place? Because they don't have ownership of the budget. Like I own the budget. And so they have to ask me, to be able to do that. And so permission is when you have ownership of who you are, what your values are, and you give yourself and you allow yourself to do the things that you want to do. You have autonomy of where you do your work. You have autonomy of who you do your work with, the type of work that you do. That's where autonomy comes in, and you have ownership of those things. So environments that allow for folks to have that level of autonomy and that level of ownership lend themselves to having the employees or the folks in that experience more meaningfulness in their work. And so what we want folks to do, and we're going to have a little poll later, is to think about your work environment, think about the projects that you work on, and think about how much permission, how much ownership, how much authority, how much autonomy do you have in your role, given what you can control and what you can't control, and can that be increased, right? When I think about, I was talking to my dad, and I was asking him about permission and autonomy and things, and he says, yeah, I mean, in the school structure, there's a lot of bureaucracy. You can tell me, is that right? Is that wrong? Yeah, there's a lot of bureaucracy. And so oftentimes, folks need to know that they have some flexibility to be able to, bureaucracy oftentimes, what you're saying was that bureaucracy oftentimes limits innovation. I see some nodding heads. Yeah, that bureaucracy, the red tape, the lines, like having to do this, you have evidence-based school management approaches that you're gonna have to sit, and fit within those rules and guidelines. And it might be hard to think of new ideas, to think of fresh ideas, to take ownership of some things like, hey, I want to do this with this program or with this class or with the school or with this community. And that can be a limiter to innovation. So thinking about where you are and how much authority and how much ownership and how much you can move the needle on experiencing permission in your role. The second thing, and I'm running through these real quick because I want to get to our discussion time, is perfection, mastery, development, and recognition. Who here is brave enough to share or to let us know? Who here considers himself a perfectionist? Man, wasted no time. How would you, for those that raise your hand, how would you define being a perfectionist or perfectionism?
Perfect effort.
Say that again?
Perfect effort.
Perfect effort. Anybody else? How would you define to be a perfectionist? What does that mean to you?
High standards for yourself.
Like a debilitating fear of screwing up.
You got some snaps over here. Debilitating fear of screwing up.
I'm a recovering perfectionist because I realized that
you have to say your name first.
I'm Greg.
Hi, Greg. Have some coffee.
No, because I realized that perfection was about other people's perception of me.
Yeah. And so I grabbed thank you guys so much. I grabbed the definition here. People who are perfectionists typically believe that nothing they do is worthwhile unless it is perfect. Instead of being proud of their progress, learning, or hard work, they might constantly compare their work to the work of others and fixate on achieving flawless output. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the approach to excellence, right? Perfection is not something that you land on, like, all right, I'm perfect, peace out. No, it's an approach. You are always just pursuing excellence. When we talk about perfection here, it's the pursuit of excellence. How am I going to get better, right? Do I have an opportunity to develop? Do I have an opportunity to pursue mastery of something? And am I getting recognized for it? Because recognition is key, right? Being able to get recognized, whether it's one-on-one recognition, because recognition is different for different folks. How many folks here like public recognition? What? That's just me. How many folks like one-on-one recognition? That's good. That's good. And folks, you guys know like the 5 love languages, right? Yeah. So the recognition works the same way, right? Where it's like, I can recognize you, but it's best by spending time with you and recognizing the work that you've done. I can give you a gift that shows like, yo, that project that you worked on, maybe we needed, 5,000 cookies for our community. This gift is a gift card to, I don't know, somewhere that has cookies, right? Something that it relates and shows that you're being thoughtful about that. But it shows that you are pursuing mastery, that you're getting better, and that you're getting recognized for it. If the environment that you're in, if the project, if the work environment that you're in does not offer the ability to improve, to get better, to pursue mastery, there's going to be a lack of meaningfulness in that work. If you're not, or if there is, and there is not recognition for that effort, for that development, whether it's the next job, right, the promotion, or the advancement, or what have you, there's also going to be a lack of the experience of meaningfulness in that. So I want you guys to do this. I want you guys to pair up. Just turn to your neighbor or turn across the table. And I just want to share, I want you to share one thing. Each person has an opportunity to share one thing that they want to grow, develop, or pursue mastery in. All right, so we'll do that for 5 minutes, 3 minutes.
Fundraising.
Just for now, I'm going to put it right here.
Fundraising is recognition, but for all the work that goes into it. Rags right ahead, sort of mission. The new cafeteria. 5 days in, we have blueprints for it. Not blueprints, sketches. $3.5 million. I think that should be. And then I want to build a ballpark. And that'll be twins. Mastery, fundraising, and inspiration to get people behind the project.
I think I want to get better at giving more diversity. This is not exciting. So I just hold it in, and then by the time I'm ready to speak about it again, it's like that's kind of like.
We're going to give it about 1 more minute.
I guess maybe. What else did I do for this week? I think we're going to get that really
ask us for it. You gave in your pursuit of meaningful work to develop your mastery. You may not want to give your example because you can put on the spot.
All right, let's bring it back. Bring it back. Bring it back. All right, so who would like to share what their partner wants to pursue mastery in? Yes, sir.
My friend Derek here. It's actually like totally on point, but he wants to pursue mastery of Patricking.
Patricking? What did you ask?
There's the idea of like, how do you bring people together authentically and kind of let everyone find their own path through Patricking.
That's what's up. We need to add that to the Urban Dictionary. The fifth P. That's what it is. Anybody else who wants to share what their partner wanted to pursue mastery in?
I don't think you could say it without crying.
Yeah. And enjoyment, like, hey, savor where we're at. Appreciate that. Last one. Because the point of this exercise is A, to share what you want to pursue mastery in, but you remember the recognition piece, right? That you're in an environment where folks know what you want to do, folks know where you want to go, and they're there to support and encourage that mastery, that pursuit, that development. Last one. Who's remembering? Kind of remembered. You can ask them. That's fine.
I'll go. The silence is killing me. Corey's was to help people, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, develop to be great, but not on his terms, not on his path, but like their path.
Very good.
Patrick.
Yeah, I realized that after I just could have.
Yeah, Patricking. That's good. So the pursuit of mastery, development, recognition. Again, we're going to have an opportunity. There you are. Have an opportunity to gauge. And there's a term called Patricking. So yeah, so, you are now a verb. Yeah, you're out Patricking. But yeah, so permission, perfection. Permission, perfection. And so the next one that we're going to do, we're going to talk about is people, the relationships, the network, the trust. How many folks here got their current job just by cold email, resume, dropped it in? How many folks got their job like that? Okay, so that's like a fourth of the room. Now, I want you to think about your next job. How many folks think that their next job they're going to get by a cold email, resume, or job board? How are you going to get your next job? Everybody's doing this. Everybody's doing this. It's people. It's relationships, right? And so people and relationships and your ability to build trust and know that the folks that you're working with know who your true authentic self is, and you know what their true authentic self is. You're all there supporting each other, and having that environment is key, because when you guys already have a stressful enough job, but working with folks that don't get you, working with folks that you don't trust or don't trust you, that you can't be authentic with, just makes the job that much harder, right? And so having an environment where You can, and again, taking ownership, right? What are the things that are in our control versus out of control? We can take ownership of how we build trust, or how we give trust to other folks, how we welcome folks into our circles, or how intentional we are about coming into other folks' circles and networks and things like that. So the simple thing I wanted to leave us is, you guys have probably seen this before. Oh, that's the wrong one. Is the trust triangle. Have you guys seen this before? All right. So the trust triangle is just a very simple way to think about how to build trust. Authenticity. You are bringing your true self, or the folks that you're with, you can tell that they are bringing their true and authentic self. How many folks here absolutely love fake people? Raise your hand really high. No? You don't love fake people? No, because I don't have to explain that. Empathy, right? You believe that folks, when they're looking at you, they feel that you are thinking about them, right? And if you're talking about other folks, that folks feel like you feel like other folks are thinking about you in their decisions, in their movements, that they might not necessarily agree, but they understand where you're coming from, right? They can put themselves in your shoes, or you can put yourself in their shoes, and that they genuinely care about my success and vice versa. And the logic that you make the right decisions. Like, there's evidence to show that the things that you do pan out, right? It makes sense. The results speak for themselves. So these three things make up the trust triangle. So as we're trying to build relationships, as we're trying to network, as we're trying to build trust with other folks, and we think about, do I have all the elements of this triangle, or am I wobbly on one of those? Because when you get a wobble in the triangle, that's where trust starts to break down, right? So taking into account, taking an assessment of yourself. I know for me, one of the things that I have had to work on, and my wife has been a superhero, is empathy, right? Being able to show, I might think it in my head, but being able to show that I understand where you are coming from, and I can validate where you are coming from. That is where I had a wobble. And we all have wobbles, right? But we have to be able to identify it in ourselves, and so we can be able to recognize it in other folks too. Like, you're a little wobbly on logic. Like, some of the things that you're doing are not really panning out or making sense, of the results aren't really speaking, or, I don't feel like you're bringing your true self, right? So once you can identify that in others and in yourself, you can really start being intentional about building trust. And finally, the last one, purpose. Everybody was talking about purpose. Something bigger than yourself, your why. Either for you personally, what is my purpose? Or some folks that are still trying to figure that out, they just latch on to, does my organization have a purpose, right? If I don't know what it is for myself, at least the school, the community, whatever, they know what they're doing, and they're trying to make a bigger impact in this world. And for those things, for organization where that is lacking, or it's not properly articulated, that's where you see some meaningfulness breaking down. There is I wish I brought the book, Drive, because he makes a very cool reference that when folks turn 60, there's like this time, the research shows that there's this time like folks come into this, they start taking stock of their life. Right, you're about to retire. You're kind of coming to that last third, or whatever it is for your life. You're trying to think, like, did my life mean anything? And then so folks start getting into purpose careers, right? They just start getting purpose careers, and they're starting to do more mission work, and they're like volunteering, and being more philanthropic and things like that. And so the statistics said that it's like every 13 seconds or something, 100 people are coming into this realization across the United States. It's like every 13 seconds, 100 people are like, oh man, what's my purpose? Oh man, what's my purpose? Oh man, what's my purpose? Whereas folks that are coming in, younger millennials, Generation Z, we are what they call purpose natives, as opposed to us waiting till we're 60 to figure out, are we doing purpose? This generation are coming into it like they're looking, like they're trying to find purpose early, like they're trying to align themselves with organizations and brands and themselves that have a bigger purpose. They're able to see the world because the whole world is available to us, right? Through Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all these different things, you can see what's going on. And you can see how you can align yourself, to that. So having that understanding, and one of the most popular tools for that, this is a very popular Ikigai that just shows how to map for yourself finding purpose. So you take what you love, what the world needs, how you can make some money, and what you're good at. All those things coming together is what the Japanese call Ikigai, your reason for being. Your reason for being, your purpose. And so anytime that I'm trying to figure out or looking at an organization or looking at a project or whatever and saying, hey, is this impacting the world? Is this something that I love? Am I getting, properly compensated for it? Because you can have it without, right? Delight and fullness, but if you're not about money, then you can kind of be up in this section over here, delight and fulfillment. If you like it, the world needs it, and you get paid for it, but you're not that good at it, right? But that leaves you a little bit uncertain. So you can kind of use that to gauge and figure out, what your purpose is or what the organization's purpose is. And so I'll leave you with this. Meaningful work makes malleable. It's all about flexibility, right? When you're experiencing meaningful work, when you're able to have purpose, when you're able to have permission and perfection, and you have the right people around you, it allows you to be flexible. It goes back to that resilience thing, right? That you can be stressed, but you can bounce back. You can adjust. You can adapt with the times. Versus a zip tie, where as things get tough, it gets smaller. Like when you try to tighten it, just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And the only way you come out is bam, you have to break it. Now, mind you, there is a purpose and there is a reason. Sometimes zip ties are needed to hold things steady, and sometimes rubber bands are not, are not most appropriate. But the idea is that you want that flexibility. You want to be able to stretch and bounce back and still hold things together. And that is what meaningfulness in your work allows you to do. And so the last thing I want you guys to do, if you guys all have phones, I want you guys to scan this. We're going to do a quick poll. Have you guys used this before? Direct poll?
You go to your camera, Padre? Padre, you go to your camera and you put the QR code in a click that.
Right. I'm not familiar with the app products. How do I need to put something on this one? Where's Patrick? Or can you help me put a screen on that screen?
I don't know what I'm being asked.
So I have another screen pulled up here that I just wanted to share on that screen. I don't know how to.
Oh, you're gonna change the share.
If I just share it over. So there's this guy. Yep, that's good. And is that over there?
I think she's saying whatever.
Okay. Perfect. How do I make this bigger? Oh, there it goes. Perfect. Good. All right. Hey, good? All right. Okay, so does everybody have it? You just say your person is waiting to present something. All right, stay tuned. All right, so let's make sure this works. Perfect. So it's anonymous. I just want to kind of get a feel for how you feel. So after we've gone through that, how would you rate the permission factor in your current role or project? Life is your job. Very good. Looks like most of us have above average, which is great. Some folks have amazing, which is also amazing. And there are some folks that there's a little bit of struggle having the authority, the ownership, and the autonomy in your current project. And as we're going through this, the thing I want you to think about is, depending on how you rate, whether it's high or whether it's low, thinking about ways, if it's low, what are the things that are within my control to increase that? Right? If I'm not experiencing the type of ownership, authority, I don't have the type of autonomy that I feel like I need, what are things in my control that I can do to increase that? Or if you're on the high end, if you're an amazing or above average, what are the factors that make that so? And if there are folks, and so these guys over here can teach. I mean, this is if I do it like within a company, like within an organization, the folks that are experiencing meaningfulness in this particular factor would share with the folks that are not experiencing that, so they can just kind of open their eyes up to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is where I feel authority, ownership, and an autonomy. This person is lacking in this area. Is there a way to bridge that gap, or to train, or to show this is how you can experience it as well? Again, it is self-defined, and there are a lot of factors that go into that, but we want to be able to share best practices within the organization as much as possible. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one. Same thing. Perfection. Your ability to pursue mastery, development, and recognition in your current role or project. Think about the things that you talked about with your partner, the things that you want to pursue mastery in, the things that you want to pursue perfection in. Do you have the opportunity to do that in your organization? If not, is there any things that you can do to implement to help that? And sometimes folks have to pursue mastery outside of the organization, right? It might not be something that's specifically work related, but you still want to have that element filled in some way, that you're pursuing mastery at something. Above average, that is good. That is good. All right, let's move on to the next one. Come on. There we go. Same question for people. You have the right relationships, the right network. You feel like you can trust. You feel like folks trust you. It goes both ways. Folks are trying to build relationships with you and build network with you as well. You exhibit that. Is that exhibited in others? Very good. There's a lot of meaningful work happening in education. Very good. Very good. And then finally, purpose. Do you understand your why? Does the organization understand its why? Is it having larger community or environmental impact? Wow, purpose is huge. It's taking it away. Very good. Very good. So we can see here, so again, I normally have like something that you can take with you, but I left it in my other bag, where you like score these things so you can just kind of have a personal reflection. But I want you to just remember this, understanding where you are with permission, where you are with perfection, with the people and the purpose, and knowing how you can toggle those factors. What's already existing in the organization, what is missing, and what you can personally do to experience that meaningfulness in your work, because again, that's what's going to drive up your resilience, your ability to bounce back and have more productive behaviors when challenges happen, and they're going to happen. School gets back in what? September.
Couple days.
Early August.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so, how can we build that to make sure that we are ready, for those challenges? And then how do we engage for folks that are administrators and leaders and have teams and staff? How do we make sure that we are creating that environment of meaningful work for our staff, right? For our people, for our teams. And if we have community, board engagement, like for our families, like how do we create that engagement so they know that meaningful work is being done at your school? So that is the end of my presentation, but I might present this last slide here. And so this is me. This is how you can get in touch with me on some of the socials and media. So I love doing this stuff. We have different content for different things. So talk about meaningful work. Patrick was on our show. We have the late afternoon show where we talk to different tech leaders and just different folks talking about meaningful work and how to apply it, to their lives. We have a website, mrmeaningfulwork.com. You go check it out and join our community over there. We're gonna have a course coming up as well for folks to go through and really unpacking. This was really just kind of the high level stuff. We have a lot more detail and case studies and things like that we do for each of those factors. And then I love to speak and share. And so if you have a team or someone locally or doing like a local workshop for your group, just let me know. We are trying to build that out as well. But with that, wow. Yeah. First students. Aren't we all shorter?
That's why school sucks. There's no autonomy. There's no purpose.
Well, Scott said, he teed us up in the tee box here in the golf clubhouse.